France.
France! What is France? Oh, well, they're making all this wine, but what are they whining about? Well, I've heard of Calvados, but not once heard mention of a Calvauno or a Calvatrace. Escargot? Where is car going? Eiffel Tower? Well, I don't particularly care that you fell, let alone the tower you built to commemorate it. And if France is so big, then why won't it fight me? All this and more on In the Drink.
As you may have surmised, the topic of today's video will broadly be about the nation of France, with a focus on looking into as much of its culture and history as possible through the use of the spirits and liqueurs that are made in the country. Wine being discounted from this conversation because wine is its whole own can of worms. So, as they say in France, liberté, égalité, citron coupé.
We should send that miserable thing back to France and tell them to keep it.
When thinking about classic cocktails that predominantly utilise French ingredients, the sidecar is one of the main ones that comes to mind as one that could potentially have been invented in France, but was probably invented in London.
You can actually see it from here.
And it also only has 2 alcoholic ingredients. Sure, there are probably a whole plethora of modern cocktails that exclusively utilise French ingredients, but I'm going to take that into overdrive. Today, I'm going to use a cocktail that uses exclusively French ingredients using the last word cocktail formula, which, for those that don't know, is all equal parts, 1 part spirit, 1 part herbal liqueur, 1 part sweet liqueur, and 1 part sour, be that lemon or lime. But I'm also going to split every single one of those bases in order to fit as much France as possible into this glass. So, without further ado, let's get started.
He's already got one, you see?
Being a last word variation, this is naturally going to be a shaken cocktail.
I told them we already got one.
And there is no better place to start than Cognac. This is a fantastic place to start. When France was fighting the 30 Years' War against the Habsburgs, which really was sort of the inception of France as this great European power, Dutch traders began to distill French wine into an eau de vie. They called this brandevin, or burnt wine. This word, brandevin, got simplified down to brandy. And then towards the end of the 17th century, the Cognac region began to distance themselves from the rest of the French brandy industry, and creating companies such as Martell. So we are going to do half an ounce of Cognac. Again, this is just going to be all in very small increments, all of these ingredients, but I think we'll be pretty balanced in the end. Next, for the other half of our spirit, our strong part of this last word formula, we're going to use some Calvados. Around the same time that the Dutch were distilling French wine into brandy, so too in Normandy was apple cider being distilled into its own type of brandy in a region that would come to be known as Calvados. Half an ounce of our apple brandy, or Calvados. And of course, naturally, this is a last word variation and it is a French one, so Chartreuse is going to be in there as well, obviously. And wouldn't you know it, it's our first appearance by the good old Napoleon, who in 1810 requested a look at the formula for Chartreuse, a herbal spirit, herbal liqueur, largely being considered medicinal around that time. Chartreuse has been made by Carthusian monks since the year 1737, according to a manuscript that was handed down to them in the year 1605. However, this version that we have today was crafted in 1840, the recipe of which is known only by 2 monks at any given time. And in 2020, the worldwide demand for Chartreuse doubled pretty much overnight. And whilst the production levels has stayed the same, making this stuff now a pain in the ass to get, we are going to need half an ounce of Chartreuse. First part of our herbal portion. Next, we're going to need some Bénédictine herbal liqueur. And whilst the marketing would very much like you to believe that this stuff is also made by monks, this time the Benedictine monks, at the Benedictine Abbey in Fécamp, Normandy. Even adding to the label DOM, which means Deo Optimo Maximo, which translates to God, most good, most great.
Thanks, God.
This is just, in fact, a marketing ploy for the liqueur invented in 1863 by a man named Alexandre Lecomte and his local chemist.
I'm French. What do you you think I have this outrageous accent, you silly king?
Bénédictine, we will need, again, half an ounce. And now on to the sweet portion of our cocktail. I'm first going to be reaching for some dry Curacao. Curacao was first invented by the Dutch East India Company on their island of Curacao by steeping some of the native oranges there. However, France began creating their own orange liqueurs called triple sec in 1834 in a town called Saumur. The name triple sec, however, literally just translates to triple dry, and nobody's really 100% sure on why it's called a triple dry, but now we just kind of accept the fact that an orange liqueur is a triple dry liqueur for some reason, even though it's in no way a descriptor of the liqueur itself. But this bottle of French dry Curacao was formulated by David Wondrich, who based the liqueur off of a 19th century French triple sec recipe and has some fantastic French brandy and cognac as the spirit base. And this is by far the best orange liqueur for cocktails, hands down. So naturally, we are going to be using half an ounce. And now for the last part of our sweet portion, this brings us quite nicely to the modern day. Saint-Germain, which was made, or invented rather, in 2007, it was apparently the first elderflower liqueur commercially available anywhere in the world. And the liqueur itself was apparently inspired by Paris and its iconic quarter, Saint-Germain-des-Prés. And again, we are going to need half an ounce. I'm realizing this may be a mistake because Saint-Germain is incredibly strong tasting. Now for the sour portion, I really wanted to get my hands on something called Verjus, which is a French culinary ingredient, literally just meaning green juice, and it is essentially the juice pressed from unripe green grapes, and has recently become very popular in a lot of cocktails in place of lemon and lime juice. However, literally couldn't get any. Impossible for me to get some, again, in a timely manner, reasonably priced, without actually knowing what it's going to taste like, because you need one quite tart, quite sour for cocktails, and obviously not being able to taste it before, it's hard to tell.
Ah, merde! Bonjour, monsieur.
So, use Verjus if you can get it, but otherwise I'm going to use 1 ounce of lemon juice. And just before we shake, we are going to take the glass that we are going to be serving this in. Grab some absinthe. This is a pre-release Hendrick's absinthe. So not French, but absinthe is a fantastic French spirit. It was created in Switzerland in the 18th century by a man with a fantastic name, Pierre Ordinaire. Ordinary Pete, we would probably call him. It rose to popularity in the late 19th and 20th century, particularly among Parisian artists and writers, and the consumption of absinthe was largely associated with more bohemian culture, but was largely opposed by social conservatives and prohibitionists, partly due to its association with the culture. And it was banned all over the world, well, in many countries in 1915, due in large part to the efforts of the propaganda published by the French wine industry. However, it's recently been allowed to make a comeback that started in the mid-1990s due to British import of various types of absinthe from various different countries that was still distilling it.
And so we're looking for it.
Yes,
Yeah, we are.
We have been for some time.
Ages.
And has been enormously popular in the revival cocktail scene. So we're going to rinse our glass with some absinthe, tiny little dash, and we're just going to swirl this around, get the inside nice and coated. If you have an atomizer or something like that, that's definitely the way to go here. But this is fine for us. And dump the excess. There we are, that is prepped, and now, time to shake. We are going to double strain this into our glass. And just as a nod to the ever popular French wine industry, we are going to garnish this with 3 grapes on a cocktail pick. And there we have it, our French cocktail, a last word variations. We should probably call it a
Dernier Mot.
Let's see how we did. Cheers. Whoa. Huh. Oh, that's fascinating. That elderflower liqueur does not punch through as aggressively as I thought it would. This cocktail is surprisingly balanced. That brandy base between the cognac and the Calvados, you just sort of get that right up front. That's really fantastic. You get that heavy, rich brandy base that comes through that is immediately alleviated by the citrus, by the lemon, that is really complemented by the two herbal liqueurs we've got there. All the brighter notes of the Chartreuse and the Bénédictine really punching up those citrusy flavours of the lemon, and the fresher notes of the Calvados, the apples, really come through quite strongly there. Again, that's all heavily supplemented by that Curacao and the elderflower liqueur, but both of those very florally, very fruity notes are just sort of omnipresent throughout the whole flavour profile. This is fantastic. This is sweet, complex, boozy, citrusy. It hits so many different notes all at once, and I'm very, very happy with it. That is fantastic. Very, very satisfying, very rich, very light at the same time. Oh, that's brilliant. If you have access to all this really random smattering of cocktail ingredients, definitely try and make this for yourself. If not, next time you're at a quite well-stocked bar, go up there and have them make this for you. That is really, really something. Yeah, France, fascinating, beautiful country. You know, Navy's not as good as ours, but, you know, you can blame them.
Now go away or I shall taunt you a second time.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had as fun watching this video as I had making it. I really, really enjoy these. Please stick around, there's always more to come. I want to try doing this sort of intermittent series on different cultures over the world and cocktails that can represent them. I've got a couple of ideas that I'm really, really excited about that I can use to explore history and culture of some different countries around the world. A couple I'm really, really excited about. I think will be quite good. We'll see you next time. Cheers.